Champions. This is a new movie playing in theaters that very late to the party on this. That's why I'm reviewing this on my second channel. Also because I don't think my main channel would care about this movie because it's whatever. This is a bad movie. And I'm very shocked about how bad this was because when I saw the trailer I was like, okay, generic little sports movie that Woody Harrelson's going to do his thing and I'm like, okay. But I was shocked by how bad this movie was. And honestly, I had a horrible time watching this movie. First of all, I wasn't enjoying the movie. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the movie, we're an hour through, and I'm like, thank God there's only an hour left to this movie that's not great. The fucking fire alarm in the building or whatever said, emergency, emergency. Do not run to nearest exit. Please exit slowly. And we all exited, and then it turned out to be a false alarm. And then they didn't just immediately restart the movie. It took them a little bit to do it. Then they did it, and then so just made this movie longer, my whole evening longer for a movie that I did not want to see that badly. I was gonna go and eventually review it on this channel, but I hated this movie. And I think what's wrong with it is a lot of things, but the main thing is like this is such an oddly directed movie. And what I mean by that is this movie is supposed to be a cliche sports movie, but it's not. It's very raunchy. There's a lot of dick jokes, a lot of penis jokes, and other things going on in the movie. And that's fine. I'm not here to be like, oh, you can't have raunchy humor in a movie. It's just that it's not funny, and it feels very awkward in the way it's placed in this movie. Especially since this movie is about mentally handicapped kids. And excuse me if I'm saying that like offensively, because like I think I'm saying it better than the movie. I don't mean to no offend nobody, but you have kids with Down syndrome and other disabilities in these movies, in this movie, and that's who he's coaching. And I will say they very much do not do a good job at portraying that. It's very offensive, actually. I think to people in the disabled community or in these types of communities and groups because I look at because I have one that lives in my house, and he lives with us, and it's just like so and I work in a movie theater where I see people like this out in public, and they don't act like this movie. Yeah, they'll say weird things and act a little bit weird, but they don't act like they do in this movie, especially the ones that play in the Special Olympics. They would never go out in the courtroom and just stand there and be like, I'm a statue. They wouldn't do that. And it's just really weird and bizarre. And it's clearly like the people who made this movie had no understanding of mental disabilities like that. And they clearly were terrible at portraying it. Also, most of the humor for at least the first hour or so is joking. They're the butt of the jokes. They're the humor here is like if it's not a raunchy joke, it's making fun of people who are a little bit mentally slow, and that's messed up. It's just like, come on. And then it's just like Woody Harrelson's character. Well, Woody Harrelson does enough to give the character a likability, I guess. He didn't save the character or the movie. His character's a dick. And normally with a movie like this goes back to the directing problem here, where normally a character like this, we understand where they're coming from, what they do, and kind of where they're at in life. Like, at the beginning of this movie, we're just kind of thrown into Woody Harrelson being a dick in bed with this woman, being like, yeah, I'm all washed up. But there is no, like, I'm all washed up part of it. He's just a dick in bed, and then he's just like, oh. And then he ends up in court, and he remains a dick the whole movie. And then his teammates kind of learn a lesson on their own. Like, it's really weird because the lessons should have been from the coach, but really a lot of it wasn't from the coach and him building this camaraderie with the team. It's mostly through other characters in the movie. Like the one girl goes in the room, says, "Calm down." To the one kid is all upset about something, kicks the coach out. Like it's so these scenes in any other sports movie would have been very cliche and very boring, and they're not here. But here's the thing. Sometimes movies have a formula for a reason. And sometimes, and I can complain about sometimes movies being boring with the formula, but sometimes it's okay to use that formula. You just got to give personality and life to it. And this movie tried not to use the formula, or maybe it just didn't understand the formula and just kind of did this thing. Like it feels like a movie that by a guy who has no idea how to make a sports movie, doesn't understand the sport he's making a movie about, doesn't understand the mental disabilities very well, and it makes these kids the butt of the joke most of the time. And it just was really mean spirited, and it wasn't fun, and it wasn't funny. If it just felt very wrong watching. It's a movie I felt wrong watching, like seeing these kids with mental disabilities be the butt of the joke, and then seeing Woody Harrelson just be an asshole the whole movie. I was I just felt like I was in a bad mood after watching this movie. And that's not what a sports movie is supposed to make you feel. And a sports movie is supposed to make you feel good afterwards. Even Rocky, right? Rocky, he loses at the end of the fight in that first movie, but you leave that theater feeling good after watching that movie. You leave the movie feeling good. This is not that type of movie. It doesn't make you feel good. And there were people laughing, kind of enjoying the movie. So I think there was some entertainment value here for some people, but I think most people were just like, yeah, this movie wasn't great. And I can kind of see this why this movie was just dumped out in the middle of March. And I think this is honestly one of the worst movies I've seen this year. Granted, I was trying to think of a movie worse than this, and it was kind of hard to think of one because I just haven't seen that many bad movies. Most of the movies I've seen this year are pretty good, so yeah, take that for what it's worth. But fuck this movie.